If you take a look at this reference photo, there are so many trees in the background. And if I was to try to paint each one of those trees, not only would it drive me crazy, but my painting would be severely overworked. What is the solution? That is exactly what we're going to talk about today. So many times in painting and in life, we hear that we need to be doing more. But today I'm talking about how you need to do less in the background of your paintings and how that can make such a difference when we are painting complicated scenes with so much going on in the background. How that bit of simplicity can bring some much needed focus to your paintings. Let's go ahead and take a look at the beginning of this painting. I've laid out my drawing and now I'm wetting down the front and the back of my paper. Now I'm laying in a faint sky wash and I'm laying in some light values for the trees in the background, some light for the trees that are more in the middle ground here, and that's going to be very important later. I'm creating a large wet and wet wash, working my way through the scene, dropping in light values on my figures, on the ground, and then down into the water. There are so many trees in the background. Now, the background of the painting is something that we should treat in a very simplified way. If we don't do that, we are drawing a lot of attention to the background of the scene. And what we know draws attention is hard edges and contrast. And so if there's a lot of hard edges and contrast in the background of your painting, you're automatically competing with what's going on in the middle ground and what's going on in the foreground. And when we get texture in every one of those sections of our painting, it becomes very overworked. The painting really kind of falls apart. So I want you to take a look at how I'm able to simplify that background and the big difference that that makes in this scene. I have this brush with some clean water and I'm gently wetting down the paper. So when I go in and paint this, I'm able to create these soft edges. Okay, so that's the background. I had a few trees. I wanted this tree to kind of run up out of the page there. But so I have some soft edges. I have some broken up harder edges as well. But what I did was I masked together those trees and tried to see that mess of shapes as one connected shape. And now I'm allowing this background to connect with some of what's going on here in the middle ground. Connected into the shadow side of those trees, all while the background is still wet. And now I needed more value for the ground. So while the edge of this is still wet, I'm going in and connecting it right into that value that I'm putting on the ground. And by leaving some of these bits of light, I can suggest all of that insane detail that is back there. And already you can see how I have this connected shape into the background, right into these connections with the grass, right into these trees, all in one large piece. So now I'm moving down into the middle ground of the painting. Now I want you to notice something. Look how broken this texture is compared to the smoother texture back here. See how I have a lot more jagged, small shapes? Back here, there's a lot more grouping, and that texture is less defined. What that's doing is telling the viewer this is closer than this. We can see more up here than we could in the background. All right, we're zipping our way through this painting here. And now I'm moving down into the water, trying to connect the reflection into the value of the grass. Again, one connected shape. It goes all the way from the background into the middle ground, into the foreground of the scene. So I've painted the water and I'm painting around these rocks to preserve some light there. Adding a few darks there while the paper is still nice and damp. Adding a little bit of value onto my figures here. So you can see I still have a long ways to go with this painting with the darks, but even now with lights in the middle values, the painting is already starting to come together. I needed a little more separation between the background trees and the ground, and I added a little more value to create some separation there. And now I'm moving forward with some of the darks. Because I simplified that background, look how these trees are now standing out compared to the background. We know that that background is a mass of trees. What we don't need to do is to separate and paint each one of them individually. So grouping them together, making them weaker in value than these trees that are closer up. We're allowing the attention of the painting to be right here in the middle ground where we want it to be. That's where you will find the most contrast, the hardest edges, so the two are not competing with each other. Here I'm really into the details and the darks of the scene, adding little bits to ensure that our main area of attention is here. And I did another little glaze over the water to strengthen that in value. Okay, and here is a look at the final painting. And by really minimizing that background, in letting it be very abstract, I'm bringing all that attention right to the most important part of the painting. If you're struggling, you don't understand why your painting feels very overworked, take a look at your background. Are there ways that you can minimize it? If you can start to see and think this way, you can produce much stronger paintings. Have you ever been really excited about a painting and you get all set up, you find that right reference that you're excited about, and then it's time to go and you feel lost? You just are having a hard time finding consistency. Some of your paintings turn out, some of your paintings don't turn out, and you're not really sure why. Well, I have a free resource that I want to give to you today that can help with these problems. My 5 steps to plan a successful watercolor painting. I walk you through the crucial planning phase of your painting that will help you understand what you're going to paint first, second, and third. The planning is really so important, especially in watercolor. This medium is harder to correct. It's so immediate. So having that plan is very important. I send you a PDF that you can download. And the great thing about this is you can have it on your phone, you could print it out, and you can take a look at these crucial planning steps before you start each painting to ensure that you're thinking through these important things as you get started. You can download this right now before you start your next painting. All you have to do is follow this link here and download my 5-step guide to planning a successful watercolor painting.